Good evening, guys. It is Saturday night. It is Revolutionary Change. It is Pontificating with Pete. Hope you're all doing well. And this has been another one of those interesting days, and I do apologize for keeping the audience waiting. I was not in any way, shape, or form deliberately being delayed, but it is another travel day for me. So getting to from the airport has been quite entertaining, including one of the things about renting a car. Always know for sure who you're renting from ahead of time, whether they're going to nickel and dime you. For some reason, I thought I had Hertz. It turns out I had economy, and that just turned out to be a disaster. So one thing I always recommend if you're going to rent from a economy level car company or anything in general, always document everything that you do before you leave in case they're going to try to pull any shenanigans in the end. So I hope you're all doing well. Golden Talon from all the way across the globe, literally. Hope you're doing good, Dan Ender. We really appreciate you being here. I was hearing some interesting things the other day about what's going on in Australia and how the Zios have been fortifying their positions in that place as well. We're going to obviously get to a number of those key stories tonight. But I do want to be very clear that when we look around and ask ourselves, why is it that we have this sort of lethargic attitude here in the United States about fundamental change? It's pretty clear that there is a reason for that. Where I want to start is a place that I usually don't start. As you know, just came from DC. I'm now in South Florida, and then I'll be back up home in a few more days. Got to see Pop, got to see some good friends. That'll be for the next few days. So Monday will be an interesting stream. That one will be from Naples, Florida. Where I want to start is with the latest DNC meeting. And it's not so much about what is said, but it's more about the actions of the people involved. So I believe this is a Climate Alliance, one of those groups. I want you to pay close attention to the reaction of the people in the audience, because that, in a way, summarizes exactly where we are today. No, actually, my mistake. This is from, I believe this may actually be from Florida. This is from the Dem Progressive Caucus of Florida. Now, if it's from there, that would surprise me, but anything's possible. So just be on the lookout. So here we go.
Are you afraid of the voters? Tell us what happened in 2024. Why are you dropping bombs on babies? Let us know. Let us know. Let us know. Release the autopsy report, Ted Martin. What are you hiding? What are you hiding, Ted Martin?
I want you all to understand what the issue is here. You have a handful of people in the room that have made it clear that they are not happy with the position of the Democratic Party and where they stand when it comes to the issue of Israel. Now, that seems pretty common. Most people, you would think, would be on board with that. Then the other thing that you also have to take into consideration is the fact that the polls suggest that the Democrats are actually picking up steam at the polls as far as where people actually stand on the issue, that actually supporting the state of Israel has become persona non grata. I'm here to tell you that that's not true at all. In fact, all you need to know about this particular position is the people in the audience. See, they gave away the game. They give it away every time. Yeah, they say that they're not in favor of what Israel's doing, but when it actually comes time to put up or shut up, in this case, address the DNC chair and say, you will not get our support if you continue supporting Israel, they all sit in stone silence. Now, there are various reasons as to why they do that. They do it partially because they're cowards. They do it partially because they don't want to lose their standing within the party infrastructure. Remember, it's kind of like church. The gossip component that goes with the same elements of church, same in politics. You don't want to disturb the roost. You don't want to rock the boat. Then you become a heretic. and then we don't want you around anymore. Not that we don't necessarily disagree with you. It's that we want a stable environment, and you're not allowing us to have one. Yeah, it's terrible what's happening to the Palestinians and the Lebanese and the Iranians, but Israel's our greatest ally. We have to send them a nicely hard, strong worded letter about why they should stop doing this. And if they don't stop, well, we have to beat the Republicans because that's more important. And there it is for you on a silver platter right there. The reactions in the audience say it all. They're just willing to go along to get along. And that's politics in general. But this couldn't be more obvious. You know, this is why we say it is infinitely more dangerous with the Democrats in power than with the Republicans, because Democrats protect empire much more effectively. So all the things that you see going on now are just being shoved right in your face because that's just how Trump and the GOP operates. But make no mistake, if you think that all of this that's going on right now would not be transpiring if Kamala or Joe or Gavin Newsom, or even if somebody like an AOC is in the office right now, would not be seeing a similar circumstance. This is exactly what you would be getting. The reason it's different now is because, well, you know, some people are just trying to find their way in a sea of brokenness that is this economic and political system we're living in right now. Now, guys, we have 278 watching. Only 135 have hit the like button. We really want to get this out to as many people as possible. As you know, our channel is heavily suppressed. So if you are here and you're watching and you enjoy this content, which we hope you are enjoying, please make sure that you smash that like button. It's the only token of appreciation we ask you to provide, and we really appreciate you being here. Kathy, we really appreciate you being here live as well. And not everybody gets to catch the live. I know it's not always as convenient, especially on a Saturday, but if you can, smash that like button and share the stream, and any and all support is tremendously appreciated. I think it goes without saying that this is a prime example. Thank you, Donna. Always appreciate you being here, my friend. I think it's also a prime example for everything that we see here today in politics, that when it comes to the America First movement, which I believe is what the future is going to be in terms of getting away from the state of Israel, the people on the populist right, people that are America First, the people that support Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and the like, those are people that take action. Those are the people that will not just sit idly by. Those are the people that are willing to take the fight to the powers that be. Whereas here, when it comes to the Democratic side of politics, they're having a hard enough time even accepting a voice like Hassan Piker, even though Hassan's not my cup of tea, but he definitely bears a lot of fruit. You know, a lot of people like him. A lot of people want to listen to him. And that's who they're pushing their fight against, which, like I said, when you get right down to it, everyone is saying the Democratic Party is where populist progressive energy goes to die. And that is true. But it's also where the empire is at its strongest because it puts so many people to sleep. And this is a prime example. If you just look at the people in the audience, they're all asleep. They're not there to do anything. They're not there to rock the boat. And then you have numbnuts right here in the front with that smirk on his face, because that, unfortunately, is where a lot of people are at. They feel the same way. They actually do agree that, well, if it's a question of our class interests, we will say that we're disagreeing with them, but in reality, we'll still support them. That's why everyone, and I mean everyone, who is running for president that we know of in 2028 is a supporter of the state of Israel. And no one is going to challenge it. Nobody. And this is just another example of how Jen was correct in that when you go to Capitol Hill, and if you think that the way you're going to get any change done, and I mean any change, is through the legislative body at the federal level, you're wasting your time. Forever. And when I see people say, well, we could just fight and work within the Democratic Party, you're wasting your time. It will not change. And the reason it won't change is pretty simple. How about the fact that the Democratic Party still has superdelegates for their nominating process for president? Do you really think they're giving that up? Do you really think they're ever giving it up? No, there's too much corporate special interest involved in how the system is constructed. And they are not going to give it up because it pays too well. This is the same reason why when I was walking through the halls of Congress, almost every other person was a lobbyist. And then every other person who supports the lobbying is a consultant of some kind. And that is the business of Washington. That is the business of American politics on Capitol Hill. Now, that's not the way it is everywhere. And that's why I'm insisting that if you're going to make any type of fundamental change, and I mean any kind, it's going to happen at the local level, and you may get lucky and have an opportunity to make that change happen with something like the New York Health Act, because Zoran Mamdani is not going to be fighting actively against the efforts to push forward a single-payer healthcare system. That is the one shot in terms of activism, in my opinion, that anybody has right now. And you can go all in on that move. Go to Albany. That's where the activity on the ground actually makes sense. Because the fact of the matter is, you've got a great state senator named Gustavo Rivera, who's been a guest on our channel multiple times. It's been a while. Love to have him back. And he was a big supporter of Zoran when he was running before anybody knew who he was. And I can tell you that his efforts to get single payer through at the state level is as active as anything you're going to find in the country. Now, are people investing their time, their effort, and resources to get things through in Albany? Well, I can't say one way or the other. I know that the New York Health Act is an active group and that they are trying their best, but my guess is they are not anywhere near as effective as some of the other lobbying interests, and I'm sure they are in Albany as they often are. So to me, that's a big step, and that's where a lot of this activity needs to stem from. If you're going to go anywhere, attack the path of least resistance. Maybe you might get somewhere. Doing this, pulling stunts at DNC meetings, it's not getting you anywhere. And the reason it's not getting you anywhere, as you can see, you've got one or two or three people standing up, and then you got the whole rest of the audience standing there with their thumbs up their ass. And again, it's not like they may not necessarily, partially for the audience anyway, agree with the efforts of what they're trying to accomplish. They're just not going to do anything to help you get there. In fact, they'll stand in the way. Rocking the boat is everything. If you want to talk about the one thing that the Democratic establishment and the liberal class that supports them do not accept, do not rock the boat, ever. If you do that, you're cast out like a leper. That's it. That is the business of Washington. And that's not going to change. When we think about some of the more pressing issues that are going on here, and unfortunately, we're going to have to bear for a minute because I think Colin lost power. So let me find out if he's going to have it back or if I'm going to have to download these clips on my own. I may have to do that. So that's the thing about going live, guys. You just don't know. It could happen at any moment. So bear with me for 1 second and we will keep this going. But yes, it's not surprising that it's this way. I just wish it was easier to convince people that banging your head against the wall and doing the same thing over and over again is ever going to get anything done, because it isn't. Doing it that way is a complete waste of time. And so once you figure out the game, once you figure out how it's played, and yet you still insist on continuing to play it, I'm sorry, but I can't sympathize. I feel bad, but I don't sympathize. At some point, you have to put your big, your grown-up pants on, if you will, and realize that the change that we seek is only going to happen if we eventually decide to stop playing the rigged game. You can't win a rigged game no matter what you do, because they'll always change the rules. They do it all the time. They expect you not to make any changes. And keep this in mind. And this is also something that I think is very important. Wherever the energy is coming from, where they don't want it to be, that's going to be where you fight. If they're not paying any attention to you, if they don't care about what you say or what you do, then whatever you're doing is a waste of time. But if you're getting in their way, then you know you're doing something right. That's, from my personal experience, has always been the case. And I don't think that this is not what I would consider to be a one-off issue here, in the sense that it's all or nothing for the people that are on the political right either. The fact of the matter is, if we're being honest, they have moved exceptionally quicker and more effectively than we have. There is still this sense of hope, if you will, that people have in left politics, that they can still fight their way through the electoral system and do it through the Democratic Party. That is not true. You can't do it. The only time that anything will ever change is if they think that they're losing their power. By trying to fight through their system that they rigged, you're not going to win anything. You're just going to continue to bang your head against the wall. And that is, more than anything else, what I'm hoping we stop doing. I know that there's a lot of desperation out there and people are questioning, well, what is it that we should do? How do we actually coalesce and make systemic change? Well, BDS is definitely one of those ways. Economic, an economic fighting back economically is one of the most effective ways to do it. And how you do it is also of exceptional importance. So I can't emphasize enough why, if you're going to fight in this arena, that you do it in a way that has tangible results. If you fight along the lines of the way that, let's say, Zoran is doing in New York right now, it's not everything, but it's a start if you want to look for certain progressive outlet. But also, the people that are stirring up the most trouble are the ones that are doing things like the additional or the new, if you will, Luigis, warehouse Luigis as they're becoming known. Property damage is something that the ruling class absolutely does not tolerate. But here's the thing. The one that just happened that we covered the other day, that happened in Oxnard, California, they'll probably get reimbursed. In fact, they'll probably end up winning money as a result. With that being said, if it happens a handful of times, to the extent that it's in the billions upon billions of dollars of damage, it's kind of like a hurricane. Eventually, you're just not going to insure it anymore. And if you do, it won't be worth actually having coverage. And then you're really in trouble. And then that's when the real losses will start. So it doesn't just happen in one instance. It has to have several occurrences to happen. And I'm not telling anybody what to do. And I'm not making any suggestions. In case anybody listens to this channel and thinks I'm giving people advice on what they should do to actually enact change. All I'm saying is, I understand the insurance business. I understand how they operate, and I understand why this is a big deal. So if your intention is to try to make any sizable change, it is a big deal. So I am going to try and move this show along as best I can because Colin, unfortunately, has crapped out. He has lost power and he thinks his computer is shot. So luckily, he sent me the clips. I am attempting to download them now, but they are taking a while. I am not in what would be considered a high-speed internet area. I had to make a pit stop on the road at a hotel. Now Colin says he'll be back in a minute. We'll see how quickly those clips get back up again. But as I said, I am attempting to think and download and roll with you guys all at the same time. So I appreciate you all for helping. Is there a tornado over Texas? There's always tornadoes over Texas. And considering how hot and humid it is outside, nothing would surprise me. That's funny, Pirate Justin. No, Jen is definitely not celebrating Shabbat. My favorite girl. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Where I was going to go with this is actually a Florida story, but it's taking forever and a day to download because it's a long clip. let me see if I can halt this or if there's like another, it's saying it's going to take 6 minutes. So let me see where I can go with this from here. Yeah, it's never good to throw me off in the middle of a sermon, I guess is the way you would describe it. But we'll see what happens here. I don't know if I can do more than one download at a time. We're about to find out. So let's see what happens. All right, this one's quick. See if we get this done. And then we can get on with the show, as they say. For those of you who saw what Pete Hegseth did the other day, he's obviously just a complete and utter buffoon in every way, shape, and form, which again should not really surprise anybody. But the fact that he decided to quote the almighty Julius from Pulp Fiction, for the love of God, it's just a show. Don't give the Zios any ideas, Mike. It's really not a good idea. Lord knows I can't deal. Let's see. Yeah, we're almost there. Got one more to go. You know, I thought about quoting the entire sermon. I did not see Pulp Fiction in the theater. In fact, I can remember the first time I saw Pulp Fiction. I was with my closest friend that I grew up with. And I remember when we were about to watch it, we were forewarned about my friend's mother had asked my friend's father, isn't there like a sex scene in that movie? Aren't they a little young to see that? He's like, yeah, there is, but not one they're going to be interested in. You went to opening night in Hollywood. That's interesting. Yeah. Unfortunately, as we know, but you know, maybe it's not that surprising because it turns out that Quentin Tarantino, who isn't just a fetish freak, is also somebody who is who fetishizes about Israel quite hard. So I would definitely say that that's a big problem. And as far as I'm concerned, when you think about just the absolute lunacy that this campaign has become, this entire administration, all of it, it's a clown show. So it should not come as any surprise that Hegseth is conducting business like this. This is real. Here we go.
There is CSAR 2517, and it reads, and pray with me, please.
I mean, hey, they all got their heads down. They're all praying like they know. They know what's up. This is it was disturbing beyond words. But it's also funny at the same time. What this also proves is that you can pretty much convince people of anything if you just tell them that this is a real prayer. They all have their heads down, they're all praying. Now, do I think any of them recognized that this was from Pulp Fiction? Maybe somebody there did. I would say that that's probably a safe bet. Oh, come on, you got to show the whole thing. That's the beauty of it all. But we are kind of living in some type of a sick simulation that is this clown show that is politics. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. But you would think after the Iranians did their Lego clip for Trump that would have been enough. No, Colin, I need the clip of the Legos of Mr. Hogsbreath. They don't miss. They really don't miss. So here we go.
What shall we do with the drunken Hegseth? What shall we do with the drunken Hegseth? What shall we do with the drunken Hegseth? Early in the morning, way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises, early in the morning.
I got to be honest, as somebody who is Irish, I really don't think he's worthy of an Irish hymen, to be honest. I just don't. I would much rather it not be a catchy tune. He may look at this and think, oh, this is great. So deception is the misconception is also very clear, but we'll continue.
He was drinking on the Fox set before the showtime. He was drinking on the Fox set before the showtime. He was drinking on the Fox set before the showtime. Early in the morning, carried out the strip club in his uniform. Carried out the strip club in his uniform. Carried out the strip club in his uniform. Early in the morning. Hey! Misconduct at the hearings. He denied all the misconduct at the hearings. He denied all the misconduct at the hearings. Early in the morning, quoted Pulp Fiction as Ezekiel 25:17. Quoted Pulp Fiction as Ezekiel 25:17. Quoted Pulp Fiction as Ezekiel 25:17. Early in the morning. Hey! Righteous man is beset on all sides. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides. Early in the morning, my call sign is Sandy One, not the Lord up above. My call sign is Sandy One, not the Lord up above. My call sign is Sandy One, not the Lord up above.
I just have to say, it really is amazing, even though it's digital, but the craftsmanship that the skill set that certain people have when it comes to building Legos and how cool it looks. That's one hell of a talent. Yeah, if you've ever been to any of the Lego stores, it really is amazing. Now, again, I know this is digital, but just kind of dawned on me that is a real level of craftsmanship that I can appreciate. And yeah, it damn sure is a catchy tune.
He's running the Department of War. Now he's running the Department of War. Now he's running the Department of War. Early in the morning, what shall we do with a drunken Hegseth? What shall we do with a drunken Hegseth? What shall we do with a drunken Hegseth? Early in the morning, put him in the brig till he finds the real Bible. Early in the morning.
Yes, we do ponder quite a bit. It is going to be interesting to see what's going to happen to him when he's no longer in power. And he's just one of several. But this is also what happens when the empire truly is collapsing, because as we have often seen, when things get completely out of control, when they get to a point where you start putting the crazies in charge, and that's what they are, they're the crazies. He's not the craziest. He's certainly maybe the most belligerent, but there's even more crazy people than him. Now, do I think that Hog's Breath is somebody who truly is controlling levers of power on Capitol Hill? I think they give him a little token amount of power to do certain things, but he's completely in over his head, and he's a huge overcompensator for whatever shortcomings he has. Maybe there are several, to be honest. What I will say, and this should be, again, a huge part of why we speak out against the state of Israel, and we also want to be very clear that it is not just the state of Israel from the Jewish perspective. It's the state of Israel from the Zionist evangelical Christian perspective. That's a huge part of the problem. And I think a lot of you have probably heard various stories about Paula White Now, if you want to talk about a crazy person, again, we have shown you time and again just how far these crazies are willing to take it. That if you live with, or if you've ever experienced life within the confines of what the Zionist cause will throw at you, and what depths they will go to in terms of Christian Zionism, the way that they convince people that they're possessed, that they are sinners, that they are going to burn in hell. This is a serious problem. And Paula White is no different. This is the type of insanity that she put congregants through in this bastardized version of Christianity. I hope you understand what that sound is. That sound is her breathing on these people, pretending like she's actually Spirit of God. If I didn't know any better, I would think this is a bunch of snake handlers. You know, we've seen things like that. That's what they do. Oh, yeah, she's blowing all right. Quite a few to get that bag. She's got quite the bag. No, it's not unbelievable at all. This is actually far more common than people think. Now, does it happen in a lot of mainstream places? No, not really. This is definitely something that is a lot more common in rural parts of the United States, where the church is the center of everything, and they tell you that if you don't listen, you're going to go and burn in hell. That's essentially it. And dying for Israel is considered a noble cause. These people really think that they're having convulsions, that they're really having some type of a spiritual awakening, if you will. It's insane, but that's what they believe. They can feel the Spirit. They can feel the Holy Spirit within them. There's more.
Now, in the name of Jesus, and fire, 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 fire.
Crazy. Crazy. And again, I see some people in the chat suggesting that this is all paid acting. Well, in some cases, it is paid acting. But there are people who are also insanely indoctrinated and desperate for salvation, and they fall for this. We'll do it one more time.
Jesus, and fire, 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 fire.
Now, if you think this is sick, which I do, I want you to understand why this is all just one big lie. That's all this ever was. So you see, the President of the United States has a big problem right now. He pissed off the Pope, and he's pissed off the Catholics of the world. So then, in her haste, because again, if you're going to act a fool, you might as well go the full route, and the full Monty, if you will. And so now what we have here is an even bigger problem. Let's see if we can get this up. Oh, Lord. Things we do to try to run a smooth show. It's not easy. But I also understand why people decide to do it this way, why they decide that they are not going to do it live, that everything has to be filmed. Okay, so we finally got it up. And it didn't even take Viagra to get it done. Trump advisor, quote, comparing him to God, surfaces amid beef with the Pope. The Paula White-Cain quote has gained attention after Donald Trump posted an AI photo of himself as Jesus. Oh, Lord. See that? That's blasphemous religiosity there, folks, in a big way. Amongst the upper echelons of the MAGA movement, Donald Trump's word is God's. Paula White-Cain, a Pentecostal televangelist who has offered Trump spiritual guidance since 2002 and was appointed to run the new White House Faith Office last year, once said that saying no to Trump would be saying no to God. Now that's blasphemy if there ever was. Earlier this month, White-Cain compared Trump to Jesus at the White House Easter lunch, likening Trump's various political scandals to Christ's crucifixion, which we did cover. It almost cost you your life. You were betrayed and arrested and falsely accused. It's a familiar pattern that our Lord and Savior showed us. But it didn't end there for him, and it didn't end there for you. Now, I can keep going, but you get the idea. This is the most disturbing aspect of evangelical Christian Zionism. You are not allowed to question any of this. And if you do, you will be condemned. But remember, if you give Paula White $1,000 on Easter, she'll have 5 very important blessings to bestow upon you. Like I said, I do feel bad because a lot of times, much like the little Zios, they're bred with this. They're born into it. They are told this from the time that they can comprehend words, that this is how it is. You could be saved. Maybe you won't be saved. Who knows? But that's why when people do these things, they are exceptionally disturbed. And that is also why when we think about why it's such a big deal, not just the fact that Paula White gets paid. I don't know what her salary is. I know she's worth several $1 million. I think she's worth at least 5, maybe more than that. But that is part of the reason why evangelism is such a sin, because it's such a grift. It's such and whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe in the hereafter, whatever it is that you believe, don't tempt fate. Live by the golden rule. So that way, depending on what happens in the hereafter, if it exists, you'll be in better shape than those who deliberately try to take the Lord's name in vain for the purpose of profit. And that, in so many ways, is what Zionism is all about. It is not about religion. It is not about for the betterment of humanity. It is not about doing right by God. It is about using religion for the purpose of taking advantage of others and making as much profit off it as you can possibly get. Whether it's Jewish Zionism or Christian Zionism, the die has been cast completely. And this is another example of that. So when we say that the Jewish Zionists provide the capital and the Christian Zionists provide the sheep, this is a huge part of that. Now, all those people that were in that room are very likely following orders when it comes to evangelism. You do as you're told. You do not question. And if you do, you'll go to hell. So, got millions to go along with it. But maybe, just maybe, certain people are starting to question it today. And that leads me to what I think is a huge part of the problem here. One of the things that we've noticed with Turning Point USA is that they are trying to cultivate as much of the youth into this religious indoctrination as they possibly can. Because they feel that if they can do that, then they convince people that this grifting can continue. It can't continue if enough people start to question whether or not it's legitimate. I think we can all safely see that it is not legitimate. It is all one big giant act. And it starts with Erika Kirk, because she is in charge of Turning Point USA. And there are multiple layers to this story, guys. I want you all to understand. There was an event that took place the other day, and I believe it was in Arizona. It was another Turning Point USA event, and the president showed up. The actual president showed up this time, not the event that they held the other day with the vice president where nobody showed up. We're going to do this in 3 parts, so stick around. This is how Erika Kirk entered the event for Turning Point USA the other day. Just look at those eyes. Those eyes talk, and they talk real loud. You know what I see? Something really evil's going on in there. Who the hell comes out to that for a religious event? Or I don't even know what the hell these things are anymore. But yeah, the eyes don't lie. The eyes don't lie, Chico. There is something very sinister about what they're trying to accomplish, because it's not going to last. Like I said, it can't last. It's too obvious now that this is all just one big giant grift. And this is the whole point about why if you keep going, it's not going to work. You see, what she doesn't realize, if you're being advised from a business standpoint, is that she is completely toxic and no one wants to be around her. In fact, she hurts whatever cause they're protecting at this point, the more that she is seen in public. If you want more proof, here it is.
We have to show up again with 80 to 90% voter turnout in the midterms and fortify the red wall for the next decade. That's what we need to do. But at the same time, you have people out there who are actively trying to tear this country apart.
Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones. Low IQs, they're stupid people, they know it, their families know it, and everyone else knows it too. Hey, got to defend the big guy. You know how they used to talk about Biden, kick 10% up to the big guy? Well, hey, the big guy needs you to go talk trash about other people. Go to it. Dance.
Love to start fights, dividing us all against each other, spreading negativity, all to get clicks and influence the algorithm to maximize profits. Meanwhile, building is hard. Getting out the vote, talking to real people, spiritual revival, that's actual work. That is actual work. And my husband, Charlie, gave his life for that work. And what gets built lasts for generations long after the noise has run out of one-liners. No one understands this better than President Trump.
Oh, no. I mean, who could possibly know better than the Donald? Yeah, he totally knows. You see, this is the problem. They have anchored themselves to somebody who doesn't care, who is probably suffering from dementia, who apparently craps himself, has no moral compass. In fact, he's kind of just done what he kind of set out to do. He wanted to prove he could win. He wanted to prove he could do it again. They kicked him out. Then he did it again, becoming only the second president ever to win a non-consecutive term. And he's basically 80 years old, and he's extremely unhealthy. He doesn't have anything to care about, anything at all. So when they're up there blowing smoke up his ass, yeah, and again, like I said, it's all in the eyes. Erika Kirk, we address when it's clear that there's something sinister going on. She claims, or at least claimed, that the reason she didn't attend the J.D. Vance Turning Point USA event the other day is because they say that there was a credible threat, or she claims that there was a credible threat on her life. The FBI actually came out and said, no, there wasn't. Now, why they're doing that, I don't understand. Maybe because the turnout was abysmal and she didn't want to show up in a basically empty auditorium. It's not a good look for her. She could show up at an event where the president shows up and still draw people in. But this is broken politics, and this is why, whatever the America First movement is going to look like, it's not going to involve people like that. They're out, as they should be. The grifting class, if there is one thing that I hope, that whatever the America First movement is, the grifting class is not allowed in at all. And the second they allow them in is the second people take a walk, as they should. In terms of the biggest grift on the right, this is as big as it gets right now, or at least it was.
No one. No matter what they throw at him, he perseveres in the face of adversity.
If Kennedy couldn't be turned, he could be replaced. I represent the Rothschild, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the Epstein class, the grifting class, you know it all. And guys, if you haven't smashed that like button yet, please make sure that you do. Now, who would come to Erika's defense? Erika's going after Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones. Yeah, it's quite a lot of kicking or punching down, I guess, for people that are trying to stand up for the Palestinian people. Clearly, we know you're not going to do that. But you want to know who's in Erika Kirk's corner, ladies and gentlemen? You know him, you love him. Here's little Ben.
Yesterday, Mary Margaret Olohan of the Daily Wire reported that Erika Kirk had to cancel the event that she was set to do with J.D. Vance. Erika Kirk put out a statement. I was so looking forward to tonight's event at the University of Georgia with our Vice President, J.D. Vance. But after all our family has been through, I take my security team's recommendations extremely seriously. Thank you to our amazing Georgia chapter for your support. God bless you all.
As I mentioned, the FBI has already come out and said that this is a false flag. There was no credible threat. You are making up an excuse. No such thing. It kind of looks like Groucho Marx. Only Groucho Marx was funny. Little Ben ain't so funny. In fact, he's just funny to look at. I mean, look at those damn things. Look like windshield wipers. Wipe away those salty tears. You got plenty of them.
Okay, so Mary Margaret reported via Daily Wire, quote, regarding the threats to Erika Kirk that prevented her from attending today's event with Vice President Vance, a TPUSA official tells me that their security had been monitoring the situation in the days leading up to today's event. People were doxing her travel location and trying to track her arrival and departure, I'm told. And there were multiple direct threats against Erika specifically. This ultimately led to her securities assessment. They couldn't guarantee her safety. Apparently, one of the officials said the event venue itself was fine, which is why the VP was there. But it was the travel portion that was of chief concern. Her children are one parent away from being orphaned, so he takes securities assessments and advice seriously. Okay, now, let's be very clear. Who do you think is monitoring Erika's travel? Who do you think is doing that?
You see, guys, Lil Ben has a crush in more ways than one on Candace Owens. And he just can't accept the fact that his entire show and his entire, what would you call it? What is the Daily Wire? His entire operation is collapsing. Oh, he's got a small, his pecker's extra small. In fact, it's probably in and up. Always be mindful of those that have so much hatred in their heart. You want to talk about a guy who definitely likes throwing the word goyim around on a regular basis when he's talking about everyday people that are not like him, that don't wear the tiny hat, that don't believe in his bullshit. It's an excellent grift for a while, or at least it was. But it's not so successful anymore. Ben Shapiro is losing, on average, over 20,000.
It's better than me, Paul. You think you're hanging here all day or higher than me or better than me? Yeah, well, I don't miss you. You're not. I'm a father. I can think that you are not better than me at all. Yeah, I'll teach you.
He smashed his nose so hard he grew fur on his eyebrow. I don't know. Something happened there. But he's got a little more to say.
Do we have any clues? Do we have any clues? Well, I mean, Candace Owens has been saying that her followers are supposed to follow Erika and give tabs on. I wonder, where could this have come from? Here was Candace not all that long ago.
It seems like they were all working to smother Charlie and make sure he was closely watched and handled. Yeah, she does. And I find it to be very weird and very creepy. Mikey McCoy, I don't know if he has a place in there, him and Elizabeth, but they are there all the time because I have sources that live in the building, obviously. Again, APB. Stacey Sheridan on that day. I know I have contacts that are live in that same building. If you guys remember seeing Stacey Sheridan, that would be great.
I also want to point out, as I've pointed out before about Candace and why she's so effective, she reaches out to her audience of the millions that she has and asks them, I'm asking you to be a part of the mission here and become a sleuth. If you happen to have information, if you happen to have a connection, do it anonymously. Now, little Ben could do it too, but people are really not that interested in helping him. That's why he's bleeding support every day, bleeding it out his ass. So he hid it, the only place he could, his ass. So he hid this watch up his ass, and I'm giving it to you. That's my walk-in for tonight. I don't even know if he secretly has, the jungle fever. What I think he does have is a lot of envy. Very, very deadly sin. Lots of envy. Yes, the little hats are very annoying because they're supposed to, I guess, symbolize that they're more important, I suppose. But we're not buying that. But envy for sure. Got a little more to say.
Still can't get an Erika sighting because we're everywhere and we're watching and we're listening.
I always feel like.
Okay, then of course Candace came out and immediately claimed that actually there were no security threats. Quote, this is PR horse bleep, obviously. What do we think is the real reason she pulled?
Did he really say horse bleep? All right, one more time.
Horse bleep, obviously.
Horse bleep.
What do we think is the real reason she pulled out?
Maybe because she doesn't want to deal with your sorry ass. Basically now, Ben Shapiro spends an inordinate amount of time talking about other creators. And why would he do that? Because people are not that interested in what he has to say anymore. Maybe if he says something about somebody that they don't like and they just want to hear his opinion, maybe that draws some attention. I don't know. And I know enough to know now that he's just a waste of space. And it's only a matter of time before, I mean, will the Daily Wire just completely shut down? I don't know. But the very comfortable life that he's grown accustomed to, the idea that you think that you could run a Zionist-laden podcast and make millions of dollars off of it and continue to live this outlandish lifestyle. He lives in Boca Raton, Florida, by the way. And you would think that maybe people would start to wake up, that what the hell is he going to do? He has no real skill. I know he could play the violin. I don't know if anybody's really clamoring for that. But I would definitely suggest that wherever he thinks he's at, he's not winning. And the reason why we know that he's losing and the mission that we're on is the right one is because I also want to remind people of why this is such a big deal. Because when you get right down to brass tacks, it's very simple. This is Charlie Kirk.
And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like, time for you guys to wake up and say no more. Draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you hate me.
They clearly hated you enough to take you out because they didn't like what you were saying. They only want you to take their money and do as you're told. The second you decide that you have a different opinion is when you're going to be dealt with. And that's what they did. And that is why when we continue to see the stories coming out about this case, which make absolutely no sense. Again, I don't even like referencing the name Tyler Robinson, but he is the person that is on trial for Charlie's murder. And we all know that he is a patsy. At least anybody with a functioning brain knows that that's the case. And I'm going to put the lawyer hat on very so briefly, as Jen would maybe be not impressed, but there's this thing in preliminary trial dealings called discovery. You have to be able to show what it is or what evidence or lack thereof that is there in order to bring a case to trial. Now, the prosecution is insisting that they have the evidence. And everyone is insisting that they know, or at least anybody's on the supporting side of MAGA and the supporting side of Erika Kirk and Trump, etc. That's what I said, discovery. Yeah, I got that one right. Can't hate on me for that one. That the information that is provided, it is an absolute necessity to have everything on the table at all times. But as we know, they're claiming one thing and they're doing something completely different. This is from footage that was captured inside the courtroom regarding where the defense is at regarding discovery.
Probable cause statement in support of the information says in the middle of page 6, the rifle, ammunition rounds, and towel were sent for forensic processing. DNA consistent with Robinson's was found on the trigger, other parts of the rifle, the fired cartridge casing, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and the towel. We have not received the discovery, and I'm not talking about expert notice, I will address that. We have not received the physical evidence and the electronic evidence that supports those assertions made by Mr. Gray when he swore to the probable cause statement attached to the information.
So I don't know what their game here is or what they think they're going to prove. There is no evidence because Tyler Robinson did not do the deed. He is the patsy, and they're going to continue to kick this ball down the road. I'll tell you in a second. Tyler Robinson, defense attorney. Let's see. I'm not getting a name here. Yeah, I'm not getting any names. If anybody's got the name of Tyler Robinson's defense attorney, Jen requested it. This is just the start. And it's also good to see you guys. If you haven't hit that like button, please do. So we will continue now with a more detailed explanation from the Queen herself. Here's Candace.
Up on here to make sure everybody is aware of what is going on right now. I am seized, obviously, by the Charlie Kirk assassination trial, and I want to make sure I'm breaking down to the public what is happening because there's a hearing live right now. The defense versus the prosecution. Prosecution is representing Erika Kirk because she is the victim on this case, and you might recall that Erika did this news hit a while ago. It was kind of weird where she just asserted and then they passed around that she really wanted to make sure that her right to a speedy trial was observed, okay? And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like, why? Well, it turns out that now we are understanding that this is going to be the prosecution's strategy. And I will be very clear here. I do not believe Tyler Robinson assassinated Charlie Kirk. And I believe that Turning Point USA is implicated in this moment in a cover-up of sorts, okay? What various roles were played. But to me, looking at the evidence, which I have done more than anybody else, there is a cover-up taking place. And this hearing proves it, okay? So they were supposed to have a probable cause hearing in May. It is slated on the calendar. When they agreed to do this in May, the defense, Tyler Robinson's defense, was like, well, we shouldn't set a date until we all get our discovery requests. And they were like, we're just going to put it on the calendar. Don't worry. We're just going to throw it on the calendar. And then, of course, if you guys don't have what you need, the case will not go forward. Lo and behold, Erika goes on Fox News and says, I want to make sure to speedy trial on the victim, whatever. And so now we're hearing that directly from the defense, and the prosecution is not disputing this, they both agree that the ATF and the FBI will not hand over their data files that they have had in their possession since September, despite multiple requests from the defense. They're like, we literally cannot have this hearing because we have not been given any data files. What am I talking about? This is crucial. Erika's team is arguing, we want the hearing to go through anyways. It's just a probable cause hearing. Okay, but they are basing this probable cause hearing. They want this to be televised, and they're going to say, what evidence do you have that Tyler Robinson did this? And the prosecution is going to say, well, we have his fingerprints that are on the gun. Well, what they're not telling you is that they're saying they have his fingerprints on the gun. That's just a summary report that the FBI gave to the defense. The defense is saying, okay, now can we see the digitized files? Can we see the fingerprints? Can we see your process and how you got this? No.
And that's the end of the case. You are withholding evidence to prove that this should go to trial. This is a dog and pony show. This is a show trial. It's not real. If you have forensic evidence proving that Tyler Robinson is at least a guilty party in Charlie Kirk's assassination, present it so that it can go to trial. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is refusing to admit the evidence. That's because there isn't any. This is all hearsay. This is all the Justice Department not wanting to address the fact that there is something much more deep and sinister going on here. But this is the whole thing about conspiracy. This is why we cover this on our channel. Because in the end, everything gets back to Israel. Everything gets back to the fact that of all the reasons that Charlie needed to be removed, it's because he got in the way of war with Iran. He got in the way of the Greater Israel Project. And the second you get in the way of multinational corporations in conjunction with the Zionist state and their interests in making billions upon billions of dollars, I don't care who you are, you're a dead man. And very often, when you get to the highest levels, like JFK, and in this case, like Charlie Kirk, you are not only going to be executed, you are going to be executed in public so that everyone can see it, so that you are reminded every day that if you step out of line, something's coming for you. It came for me. I lost my job. Why? Because I pissed off Laura fucking Loomer. And who the hell are we? We are a tiny little channel compared to people like Candace and Tucker. But clearly, whatever we're saying is having an impact of some kind. And we're not going to stop. Is there risks? Sure. I have no doubt that there's risks. Our channel gets suppressed every day. We have to fight through this every day. But we will continue to fight on because this is how you make change. Remember what I said at the top of the stream. If what you're doing is not pissing people off, you're not doing it right. Especially people in power. If you're not doing that, wasting your time. Doing this is helping create the revolutionary change we so desperately need. And the second that the people that are armed in this country, and yes, I did say the word armed, it's very distinct. When the armed people of this country decide that they don't want Israel anywhere near our crosshairs anymore, that they do not want to be conscripted to the Zionist state or to the Zionist billionaire class that runs our country, when they decide that they are ready for revolution, it'll happen. And we're getting very close, very close. That's why Candace, who is much more influential than we are, better be protecting herself. Because she's getting very close.
You just get the summary. The summary report is all you need. No, actually, we need to make sure that what you're saying you saw and what you have is real. Also, aren't there 5 other sets of print? No, all you get is our summary report saying that Tyler Robinson's fingerprints are on the gun. Similarly, the ATF is also refusing to hand over for some unknown reason. It actually is kind of a known reason. Like, we don't know, but we know the reason of talking about the gun. They are also unable to get the chain of custody. Again, probable cause hearing. Erika's prosecution is going to say, well, we saw Tyler Robinson get onto the rooftop at this time. We saw Tyler Robinson get into his car at this time. Well, the defense is saying they won't give us the chain of custody. So basically, we can't dispute anything they're saying. It's possible, highly possible, that actually those images were taken on a different day. How do we know if you don't hand us over the files, if we can't see the chain of custody, how these files were created, who it was transferred over to? Otherwise, all we have is a report that says, well, Tyler Robinson, the FBI concluded, jumped onto the rooftop at 12:19 p.m. before taking a shot at Charlie Kirk. We don't have to give you any more. That is the argument that Erika's team is making right now. That, well, it's just a probable cause hearing, so it doesn't really matter. We want things to go through. She's a victim. She wants things to happen quickly. And their defense is making a very valid, a very layered, a not complex argument for anybody who has common sense to understand that there can be no going forward until we have what we need, because we can't dispute what you're saying. We're just supposed to trust me, bro, when it comes to the FBI, who has butchered this case and told us the most unbelievable things since the very beginning. This cannot happen. Never did I think that we would be alive for something like JFK. You grow up, you hear the stories about JFK, you hear the conspiracies, you hear about the corruption of the feds, you hear about LBJ's potential involvement, and you think this will never again happen in the United States of America, and we're never going to be able to experience that. That is happening right now.
I also want to point out, and this is very important, that from the very beginning, when they discarded evidence, when they covered up the crime scene, the second that you smell a rat is the second you know something is afoot that should not be. And that's it. You have to know immediately. No autopsy, nothing. So why would that happen in such a high-profile assassination? Because it was an execution. It was a coup. This wasn't some random shooter. This wasn't a Lee Harvey. This was a person or a entity when you consider all the variables that were involved in this killing. The amateur video that captured what it captured. The guy who stood up in the crowd right before the shot. And then after, the person who said, I did it, to distract. From what? There's no such thing. And again, the only reason this is happening is because there are much more powerful people at play here that needed to get rid of him. And as I said, they had to do it in public. Now, they thought they could control the narrative. That's why they tried to control everything. But remember, this was an outdoor event, and the only reason we know for certain that what we've been told is a lie is because there's amateur video that made it onto social media before they could take it all down. And that's it. There's no other reason. If they could have controlled everything from the jump, they would have. But we are living in an information age where you can't do it. You just can't. It is inevitable that the truth will not only come out, but it will set us free. Because the second people realize who really was behind this, there is going to be a demand for revolutionary change against Israel. We're already heading there. But once it becomes clear as to why and how Charlie was removed, that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's already breaking Turning Point USA, which is so beautiful to see.
Every person should pivot, go find, there's live feeds on YouTube, there's live feeds that are on Twitter, and rewatch what is playing out right now in the courtroom, where they are arguing that the ATF and the FBI should not have to hand over their files, just their report, their summary, their conclusion, absent any digitized or data that is included in the summaries, and you should just trust them and go forward with the hearing. This cannot happen. This cannot stand. I will state again, over and over, with everything that I have looked at, I don't think there's a single soul who has given more of their life, spent more hours examining this case from every aspect than me, because I deeply care about this. And I am telling you, I have not seen one shred of convincing evidence that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk. Not one, okay? And the fact that his wife is trying to play this, what I would say to be a sleight of hand, not granting a continuance, take it from someone who is perpetually sued. I have never been in a case where both sides don't just agree to a general continuance. Even me and Brigitte, despite our differences, have agreed to a continuance when we were like, oh, the date that was set, can we push it back? And Brigitte's team just agreed to it. It's almost like just something that you do out of respect for understanding that things have to be done. Why is Erika's team arguing this? They should say, we don't agree with what the FBI is doing. Of course, we want you able to reasonably defend yourself, because we want the public to believe that this is not a show trial.
It is a show trial. And they know it is. They're also in on the scam. Now, I can't say definitively one way or the other whether Erika had anything to do with what went down, but do I think she knows what went down and is going along to get along? Yes, very much so. And I've also said time and again, and I will keep saying it, I do believe that Candace knows what went down. I believe she is fully aware of what happened. And she's going to kick this can as far down the road as she can until everybody's on board. Can't let it go. But it is a sham trial. And this is proving it point for point why that is the case. The fact that they won't issue a continuance, even though it is clear that this discovery is a complete fallacy. The only reason that Erika and her people would suggest otherwise is because they know something they don't want us to know. So that's why we keep pushing.
Right? We want the public to believe that Tyler Robinson did this. They have been signaling to the public that the evidence is so overwhelming. They're overwhelmed. They wake up, they have to pop a Xanax because they're just so overwhelmed by how obvious it is that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk. And yet they're trying to play this game right now. So overwhelming, we don't have the data from September. We just have what Kash Patel and the ATF says happened in their summary reports, but we really should just get on with this trial. This is like a hoax being played upon the American public. Shame, absolute shame that Charlie's friends are in office right now. The people that he fought to put in office are allowing this charade to go on.
Candace brings up an excellent point, because the one thing that you will also notice in the halls of Congress that Jen and I noticed is not only do you have the I Stand With Israel placards, you also have the Trump after being shot, and you have rest in peace Charlie Kirk. Saw that quite a few times. You don't see any of these guys speaking up about the sham trial that's going on right now. No, of course not. It's because they are in on the scam, or they just know. And they know not to say anything. That's why they're just hoping that this gets swept under the rug. It is our duty, regardless of whether we agree with Charlie Kirk politically, because in the end, we are ruled by a Zionist billionaire oligarchy, fascistic oligarchy. Everything else that we complain about, it's all a show. This is the real stuff. And they are desperate to make it go away. We're not letting it go away. We'll finish.
Donald Trump, Vance, and Kash Patel are allowing this charade to go on. Why don't they pick up the phone and demand that Kash Patel send over the files? Since they all love Erika so much, she's so innocent, she's so wonderful, we love her, we want the public to get off of her. So why don't you pick up the phone and command your FBI and your ATF to hand over the files so Erika can have her speedy trial? Oh, I know, because it didn't happen. We all know the story that they are giving us is absolute fed slop, but this trial that is going on right now should awaken everybody's eyes to how despicable the narrative is that they are trying to serve us, okay? Truth does not fear introspection. Send over the files, okay, and bring us to your side. But don't think that we're going to fall for this nonsense of a summary report and you presenting, there's so much evidence, it's overwhelming. No one believes this. And I am literally on fire right now and just needed to rant because I'm watching this and shouting at my screen because I cannot believe the audacity of Erika Kirk, okay? People, you can call me whatever you want. I'm happy to be public enemy number 1, 2, and 3. I find her to be malevolent. And that's all I'll say about that.
Can't disagree. And that's why, of all the people that Erika Kirk has to be an attack dog against Candace Owens, she has little Ben go out there and do it for her. In the end, we know which side will win. America first will win. And not America only, and I'm tired of seeing people say America only. Do you want to live in a society? Do you want to live in a global world? Or do you really think you can isolate yourself from the rest of the world? Trust me, when the economic collapse happens, you'll be begging other countries to do business with us. America first, not America only. And that is the key. Candace is spot on, as she often is. Charlie meant a lot to her, and she's not giving up, and neither are we. If you're enjoying this conversation so far, which we hope you are, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite being heavily suppressed. And as you guys can see, I think we've topped out at like 650 live viewers tonight. We used to be over 800, if not 1,000 live viewers. So they're definitely hammering us hard. Let them hammer us. We're going to keep speaking truth to power. And we appreciate any and all support that has come in so far tonight. RKM, thank you very much for the 10 euros. Hope you're doing well over across the pond. Pirate Justin with the $2. Zios don't care which party is in power, own both. I could not agree more, my friend. They absolutely own both. That is one thing we know for sure with our experience on the Hill. Citizen Pendejo with the 50 pesos. 2 insights. Pete's. Rome scrambled when crowds cheered for the gladiator. Enter Bulzarian. Mine. Greater Israel will fail. Trump nor Zios know what they are doing. I agree. I actually do think it's a failed project, and I think they will ultimately fail as well. And it will take more time. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Paula's highly qualified to be a stripper. Same mindset. Hey, she dances for those dollars, my friend. That's for sure. And Stephen Dickinson with the $2.99 Aussie. Great COD pastors. Thank you both. Appreciate you being here, my friend. And again, if you guys are enjoying this content so far, any and all support is tremendously appreciated. As you know, we have to fight that algorithm on a daily basis. It's not fun, but it is par for the course. This is what we've signed up for. We have accepted this lot. We have to keep pushing forward. And that is why any and all support that is provided to this channel is obviously a huge boost, because that is the only way that we are able to continue to grow. And when we do grow, it seems that a lot of people really do like what they hear and they see, which is great. And despite the fact that Google doesn't like us, despite the fact the establishment doesn't like us, we will continue to speak truth to power, and they'll continue to shadow ban us as much as they do. See, if they shut us down, that'll be too obvious. But shadow ban, oh yeah, on full display. So if you haven't hit that like button yet, please make sure that you do. Please make sure that you share the stream, and let us continue with the evening. Now, 600 likes. There we go. See, we have reached above the threshold of where even the audience stands right now. And if you haven't hit that like button yet, please consider doing so. You guys know I have mentioned Patrick Betts, Star of David, a time or two before. And I'm going to keep mentioning him, because he really thinks he's a bigger deal than he actually is. Now, unfortunately, this is part of the reason why punching down doesn't work in politics. See, if I talk about PBD, Patrick Betts, Star of David, it doesn't interest him because I'm not a big deal. We're not a big deal. So it's not a big deal. But when Tucker Carlson mentions him, that is music to a grifter's ears if there ever was. Ever. PBD really thinks he can split the difference, but he can't. And so here is an example of a grifter on a mission to be exposed.
Patrick Bet David on his podcast a day or two ago. Watch this.
I don't know why Catholics, have this issue with Jews. I don't know what it is. They have this, I don't, listen, I get the Jews have issues with Christians, and they'll make fun, and they'll say stuff like, oh, your Jesus is going to do, they'll say, well, he was a Jew anyways, right? Yeah. But then Catholics have that issue with Jews. And they act like, they're all innocent and everything. And when you look at Catholics, the amount of centralized power they have. Centralized. If you know what the total Catholic population is worldwide? It's like 1.213 billion. Jews are 15 million. 15 million. But Jews are decentralized, meaning Jews don't have somebody they listen to that says, hey, you better do this.
He could not make it more obvious that he is a paid shill. He's Iranian, and he clearly supports the Israel Hasbara because, as we've seen, Adam North Miami Beach Sosnick is clearly his handler, who's the guy he's talking to in the background. Patrick Bet, Star of David, is really convinced in his own mind that he can do the dance and not get caught when the lights go on. Well, he is being caught, and he should continue to be exposed for the Israel shill that he is, as I've often said, there is no excuse for why Adam Sosnick has a job, but we know why. His show, which again, he built off of a multi-level marketing scam, has attracted millions of viewers. But again, why is that? It's because for him, it's all about the Benjamins. That's all it's ever been about. And that's frankly all that this is about here too. Why is he bashing Catholics? Because the Donald expects it of his paid employees, and he's a paid employee. He came on the show. So, there you go. This is the bullshit that this dumbass is throwing out there to the wind. But believe me when I tell you, it's going to get so much worse.
Catholics, God forbid you say something about the Pope. They're like, hey, man, listen, who is that Pope figure in the Christian community? We don't have one. No. If I ask you right now who's the Pope in the Christian community, you don't have somebody to look at. Who is a witch pastor?
Yeah, exactly.
No, they don't.
We don't have one.
It's an independent network.
It's just the Bible.
So if you look at, only Catholics and Muslims have somebody that they look at as their supreme leader. Like, you know, you got to go to somebody. But even more, it's Catholic.
Well, there's only two theocracies in the world:
Catholicism,
Islam. I'm sorry, the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yep.
And the Vatican.
Yep.
You know, I picked the perfect screen capture of Sosnick doing I Am the Great Cornholio, because that's really what he is. He ain't got no TP for his bunghole. The only two theocracies in the world are Iran and the Catholic Church. These guys can't make it more obvious that they're paid shills for Israel if they tried. And of all the people you're going to bash, you're bashing the Catholic Church? Why don't you just say the Catholic Church rapes little boys? There is truth there, but no, not at all. Saudi Arabia is fine, right? They're pretty fundamentalist, last I checked. When it's all about the Benjamins, you will say and do whatever you have to do in order to get it right. Whatever gets the job done, whatever gets you paid. All because the Pope doesn't like the president that they're pulling this stupid charade.
Yeah.
Those are the two major theocracies.
So actually, the Vatican is very much like the Nazi Iranian government, the theocratic government, the mullahs. It's all basically the same. They've got the complicated dress. They hate the Jews, as Patrick Bet-David just said. Catholics have a problem with the Jews. A problem with the Jews. It's slander. It's an attack on the world's largest and oldest Christian denomination, and it's taking place openly. And it's all coming from the same source, which is Israel. The issue is Israel.
And I want more and more people to recognize that reality. Don't run away from where the central issue comes from. Patrick Bet-David makes a lot of money because he's on the corporate payroll and he is a shill for Israel. Period. And now that you have Tucker going after him, maybe he might finally start getting exposed in a way that really needs to happen. Wait until Tucker maybe does a deep dive on the multi-level marketing scheme that Patrick used to make his millions. And the young men, thousands of young men that he took advantage of to work for nothing, to lose money, to work for an insurance company that he runs. when in reality, maybe 3% of the people that work there actually make any money. And the ones who really make serious money are all at the top. And that's where he sits. And this is where the failure of capitalism could not be more obvious. Desperate people trying to make a living with the promise of maybe one day, after years of slaving yourself to death, maybe you could afford a decent car. Forget buying a house, that's out. But this is the dream that they sell. And a lot of people buy it. And especially in South Florida, where it's very easy to sell, and in Austin, Texas, and in Los Angeles, places where that shit flies. So it's not a surprise. Oh, and Patrick Bet David used the money that you all decided to slave yourself on, paying for his mastermind and things like that Grant Cardone does, to become a 2% owner in the New York Yankees. I think his percentage might be higher now, but that's just a prime example of how the grift works. So do I think he really has a feeling one way or the other about Israel? Maybe not. But it pays well. And that's how a lot of other people look at it. And Tucker's spot on.
Anyone who supports the Netanyahu government, not Israel as a concept, not all Jews, no, the Netanyahu government, anyone who ratifies every decision, no matter how violent or grotesque or genocidal of the Netanyahu government, those are the good people. And anyone who doesn't is a Nazi. And by the way, their religion itself is a Nazi religion. It's an inherently anti-Semitic religion.
So Tucker, it's interesting. I watched this video a few times, and respectfully, I want to respond to you because you're a formidable voice. Whether I agree with you or not, you're somebody that's very good at getting your message out there. And I think at this point, if there's anybody that believes in your ability, it's a guy like this who, after I sold my company, offered you a $100 million contract. I even went on your friend Megyn Kelly's show when I announced it, and she was asking specific questions. I said, yep, we went to your house, we made the offer, then we spent some time together. I came to Maine, and we did your show, and we've had a couple good conversations together. So I
talks in the third person, brags about selling his multi-level marketing company, then claims to have offered Tucker $100 million to come work for him. Let me tell you something, Patrick Bet, Star of David. The only person who looks good here is Tucker Carlson, and you look like a fool. Tucker Carlson has fuck you money. He doesn't need your filthy money, and Lord knows where that $100 million is coming from. But I have a feeling, a sinking feeling here, just a little bit of a feeling, that if he did accept that money, he might have been forced to speak quite differently about the state of Israel. Maybe that was one of those conditions. You didn't have that podcast too long ago. In fact, I believe it may have been within a year. Maybe a little more, but that's about it. How much of a not so humble brag could you possibly have? And the only people who talk like that are people who are frauds. And Patrick Bet, Star of David, is a fraud. Tucker Carlson has a lot more than $100 million to his name, but you wouldn't know that because he doesn't talk like that, because his money is legitimate. Your money is from hustle culture of the very worst kind. Screw everybody and let me get my bag. And you brag about it. Shame on you.
Believe in you. I think you're funny, quirky, very good communication, and you have your way of doing things. It's almost like you do twist words a lot, and I noticed you did that with me. He hates Catholics. He hates this. Catholics hate the Jews, and all this stuff that you did. It's a little bit of your shtick, which I get. But let me kind of get into a few things I want to address with you in this video, and maybe you're not aware of it. A few things you need to know about me. My number one priority is to make sure America stays as the greatest country in the world. Period, full stop. I'm America first. I'm a Christian, non-denominational Christian that you need to know about me. And by the way, I'm Armenian, which, by the way, the first nation that accepted Christianity as their religion was Armenians. And the only ones that debate Armenians on them being first is Assyrians, and my dad is Assyrian. Maybe that's the reason why my parents divorced each other twice, married each other and divorced each other. So Armenian, Assyrian, Christian America first. I want this thing to be the greatest country in the world. I want capitalism to be common sense for everybody, to realize that if a new person wants to come up and have their dreams become a reality, I want that to be out there. But I wonder if that's where you are today.
Well, I know where you are. You're just trying to figure out how many more suckers you can get invested in your bullshit. I hope enough people start to see through this. But remember the audience that he targets. He is primarily going after the highly driven, capitalist mindset 18 to 29-year-old demographic that probably comes from a decent background. He knows where his bread is buttered, especially in the Fort Lauderdale area of Florida. There's a reason he's there. That's where the office is. That's where people come to work. So he's attracting all of those young bucks. Got to go out there and get that money. Again, he's got a very Vince McMahon-esque type of disposition. Vince McMahon and the Donald are very close. Again, hustle culture of the worst kind. Tucker is a blue blood. He's an aristocrat. He's also very good at what he does. He's not a fraud, but he is very shrewd. And he's making PBD very unhappy, which is why he's doing this. Now, on the one hand, PBD is thrilled that Tucker name-dropped him. But the problem with PBD is that he doesn't actually know how to counterpunch. When he talks, he exposes himself that much more. So let him keep talking.
You were always there for many years until what's happened with you the last couple of years. So let me kind of address a few things. So you said something a couple weeks ago. You said Sharia law has made Islamic societies more advanced than the West. Huh. It's interesting. Sharia law has made Islamic societies more advanced than the West. It's a pretty bold statement. I mean, it's like you're selling Sharia law more than you're selling America.
For the people that I know, that I have met over the past couple of years, particularly when it comes to those in the Muslim community, they come from various cultures. You don't have to agree with Sharia law, but I'll tell you what I have noticed within sort of the Eastern mindset, if you will, even if you don't agree with their faith-based way of living. They are so exceptionally driven by education, beyond words. Did you know the highest literacy education rate in the world belongs to the Palestinian people at 98%? The education in the West is a joke. The education in the West is for profit, which means that only a percentage of the country is actually going to succeed. It is by design. It is a feature, it's not a bug. So if you have the money, yes, it pays for sure. But if you don't, you're fucked. And you're not brought up in communities where if you don't have the money, that education ever becomes a priority. The goal in this country, if you don't have the money, is to get you to go work for Amazon or Walmart. You get the idea. There's a reason why they're the biggest corporations in the United States. Because people that actually have opportunity for economic advancement are not going to go work for them. The system is designed from that standpoint to screw you. So when Tucker makes this statement, you don't have to like it, but it's the truth. And maybe that's the part that hurts. Defending this broken economic and political system is what people like Starved David have to do, because they not only succeeded in the system that so many fail in, but they took the easy way by fucking over as many people as they could in order to create that life. And that is why he's reacting the way he is. He's telling on himself, as he so often does.
You had a guest on a couple weeks ago. Your guest said, you know, that capitalism should not be anywhere near Christianity. Christianity is socialism at its core. You almost agreed with them. And you're like, yes. And you almost agreed with them. So socialism, Christianity at its core, you almost sound like you're supporting maybe a Mamdani in New York or maybe an Ilhan Omar. Maybe those two will be in your podcast in the next few months. I don't know. I'm trying to see what you're solving for. See, this is kind of where I'm at with my life that most people don't know about, but let me kind of share it with you. For 7.5 years, I worked with Mormons. Guess what? I read everything I could on Mormons, and I realized it's not a denomination for me. I'm not interested. I watch all the videos you're not supposed to watch. Ask me how many bad experiences I had with Mormons. 0. They're phenomenal people. I work with Seventh-day Adventists, and I learned that on Saturdays, you know, there's Saturday, Sunday, all these different things. Very interesting. Guy named Juan Rivas, big community. Not for me, but guess what? I got along with them. Jews. I notice Jews, when I do business with them, it's very interesting if you negotiate with them. They're going to be very, very making sure they get all the benefits on their side. But ask me how many times I've had issues with Jews. Never.
He just said, and this is a guy who claims to be an uber capitalist, that dealing with the Jews means that they get everything. But I've never had a problem with them. What in the hell? You're not that good at this, pal. In fact, you've overplayed your hand.
Okay, if you ask me about Catholics, I built an insurance company with 60,000 insurance agents, 54% Hispanic, and what do you think most Hispanics are? Catholics. Never had one issue with a single Catholic in my life. And last but not least, Islam, Muslim. I lived with them for 11 years. When you say Sharia law has made Islamic societies more advanced than the West, I lived with the IRGC and the Hezbollahs in Iran, where my mother and my sister were frightened to walk outside. That's this guy. I lived with them, okay? Not hypotheticals. And, you know, we are now both very wealthy. You come from a very wealthy family. I think you also may have married into a wealthy family, and you made a lot of money. You made a lot of money in your life, and your business is doing very well today. When you go to dinner, you're having dinner with people that are going to make sure you see the best side of everything you go to. When I went to Mumbai, they showed me the best part of Mumbai. I went to the slums because I wanted to see what it looked like. Whatever part.
He wants you to know that he's a man of the people, guys.
Part of the world I go to, I get treated royally today. Why? Because they want to show me the best.
Why would anybody want to show you the best? You are a con artist, and a lot of the world doesn't care how you made your money as long as you have it. And that is why they want to show you the best. Because for you, this is all about a lifestyle. Your lifestyle is very important to you, PBD. Very important. In fact, it's the most important. And as long as you are willing to grift all the way to the bank, yeah, people will treat you nice if you're going to pay them a lot of money to do so. That's the name of the game. But again, you're hood rich, which means you like to show off everything you've got at all times. Your car, your airport hangar, your office, your home. People that have real wealth, tangible wealth, don't show it off. They just don't. You know how I know? Because I'm in that world too. And I know who has money and I know who doesn't. And the people who truly have it don't want you to even know they're alive. But you, holy shit. How long before this son of a bitch is running for high office? Who's to say he's not going to run for governor of Florida? I'm not trying to put any ideas in his head. But trust me when I tell you, his ego's big enough to want to do something like that. 1,000%.
But I lived in the worst when our family had nothing. Literally nothing is what we had when we lived in Iran. Regular places, we lived in the city of Tehran. But you know, as crazy as that is, do you know my chef that lives with us? When we go on the road, he's with us all the time. Do you know he's Muslim and he's Turkish and he's still a Muslim? And do you know what Turks did to Armenians and Assyrians? You ever heard of the Armenian genocide or the Assyrian genocide? You ever heard of that? 1.5 million, 300,000, 200,000. I love this guy. He's a great guy to us. He's very good to us. because I isolate the relationship with that individual. And I still tell them how concerned I am with what Islam could do to America. I am still concerned of that, of what's happened in many different societies. Look at, what they're doing in Minnesota, many markets that we read about. Look at what's going on in New York right now. Look at what's going on in a couple places in Plano on how they're growing. And so Charlie Kirk, whom you and I think, both admire, Charlie Kirk once said, I think it was 2 days before he was killed. I think it was 1 day before he was killed. He said, Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America. Let me read it to you one more time. Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America.
We here at Revolutionary Change never pretend like we shared much politically with Charlie Kirk. And that still doesn't change the fact that he was taken out by Israel. And that doesn't change the fact that you are a hateful bigot, just like your Hebrew handler, Mr. Sosnick. You are not proving anything by doing this. You're proving how much you hate Muslims. That you're doing, for sure. Charlie Kirk was no guardian angel that everyone just had to go along and agree with. Religion does a lot of bad, as much as it does good. And the only religion that Patrick Betts, Star of David, understands is the religion of the almighty dollar. That is his only religion. So there you have it. We'll finish it up.
You agree with Charlie? Because I do. I do. Because it's all like, hey, let's make it not a big deal. Let's be tolerant. Let's be tolerant Christians. Sharia law has made Islamic societies more advanced than the West. Let's just be tolerant. It's okay. Let's be tolerant. Let's accept all this stuff. Let's allow all this immigration that's going on in UK. It's not a big deal. They're not that bad. It's fine. They don't live the way you do. They just don't.
So he concludes with talking like Tommy Robinson, which is not even his real name. But that's not surprising. Like I said, the last bastion of the power vacuum that the Zionist cause has here in the United States, the absolute last one that they have, and only one. It's the last card they can play. And they're going to play it for all it's worth. Anti-Muslim bigotry is still a major factor in the political discourse in this country. And it's on both sides. But as I've often said, just about everybody, with the exception, of course, Patrick Betts, Star of David, has made it clear as can possibly be made that he hates Muslims. And if that's his justification behind supporting the state of Israel, oh, the Israelis are paying him. But my personal experience, without exception, is that these guys that talk the way that they do, they've never been in a mosque. They've never been amongst the Islamic culture. Yes, they are very conservative in many cases, but they're not hate-filled people. Are there hate-filled elements of Islam? Of course there is, like any religion. You think there's not hate-filled elements of Christianity and Judaism? You bet your ass there is. There's even hateful elements in Buddhism, if you can believe that. But this is the reality. This is all about money and power. And that is the defense of Israel, pure and simple. There's no righteous cause here. And when they tell you that it's about, oh, that's what we believe, because it was promised to us in the Torah. No, it pays well. And they pay well, extremely well. As I pointed out, one of the takeaways that I had when I was on the Hill on Wednesday, the little Zios are all running up and down the halls of Congress, making sure that everybody stays in line. If we want to enact that change, even though I don't think it's totally relevant in terms of actually enacting change, but having the presence in the halls of Congress, kafia or no kafia, is something that needs to happen. Has Patrick Bet David always talked like this? I don't know. I don't watch him enough. In fact, the only time I even address him is when he's brought up in this context. He really thought he was going to land an uppercut and a combo cross by talking about this language and addressing it to Tucker Carlson. No, it's actually going to hurt him a lot. And it should. I hope we play a small role in doing just that. Now, when we talk about defending the worst of the worst people, and to be honest, we joke a lot on this channel about the issues within the Israeli Zionist culture. And it's not just the beliefs, it's the insulation, and if not the outright inbreeding that goes on. Now, there has been a rumor floating around, as I'm sure a lot of you have seen, that in fact this story was not true, that the image is AI. Turns out it is true. I don't want to scare anybody, but Colin, I need that photo. This is what happens. This is how Palestinians are treated in the West Bank. Not just Gaza, not just with Hamas. Remember, there's no Hamas in the West Bank. So it's just an excuse. Now, to set the stage, he is making those very animalistic sounds like a donkey, because he is one. In fact, donkeys are definitely more attractive than him. But as you can see here, what is happening is a land grab in the West Bank. These soldiers, armed with their AR-15s, are going after Palestinians who do not have weapons. So as you can see, there is a reason why they feel entitled and strong. They are not being challenged by people who can actually stand up to themselves because they are not carrying automatic weapons. They are. This guy makes Fetterman look like a very handsome devil of a man. But again, he's making machine gun sounds. That's what it sounds like to me. Let's listen again. You know, you really got to hand it to that lady. She may have said something to him like, "You get the hell out of here," or "You're so damn tough with that automatic weapon. Why don't you, is that the," well, yeah, I mean, you could say that he looks like Chewie, but he looks a lot worse than that. Chewie looks handsome compared to him. But I'm telling you, that's who you really want to hone in on. Look at her courage. See her flip him off? Let me tell you something. That's a really brave person. Basically telling him, away, you may be succeeding now, but not for long. Remember, as soon as we yank the rug out from under them, they have nothing. Their whole existence is based on it is on the precedent that we have set with our financing of their entire country. And the American people don't want this anymore. And pretty soon, they won't have it. And this inbred of a human is not going to be long for this world. And the funny thing is that now he's famous. We'll get to that in a minute. A face that you could never mistake anywhere in the world. On the right, you have the image of courage and perseverance. On the left, you have the image of genocide, of colonialism, of the worst of humanity. But I'll tell you, the worst part of all is that somehow, some way, he got somebody to marry him. Now, when I say somebody, I'm not saying that this is necessarily a human. Maybe he did marry his donkey. That's possible. I mean, in that culture, they pretty much do anything they want. They get away with anything they want. But could you possibly imagine? We forgive you, Tim. As long as you subscribe now, we appreciate you, my friend. But think about that. If you're of the, let's say, female sex, how would you like to be mounted by that? I don't know. That's nightmare fuel. Maybe he's married to another man. But this is what I think perfectly captures what this whole ideology is all about. These people are animals. They're only trying it with people who can't defend themselves with weapons. Everybody's tough when they have weapons until the other person has them too. And then you get to find out who's really tough. Apparently, YouTube doesn't think very highly of us addressing this particular fella, if you even want to call him a fella. My goodness, guys, I tell you, that hair he's grown. Now, I know that there's like a technical word for it. They grow their hair, their sideburns out. But I tell you, it looks like he's got pigtails. So who knows? Maybe he likes to dress up in, girls' dresses and stuff. Maybe he's the queen that prances around, the IOF's camps looking for a good time. Some of these guys are just kind of desperate for a little action. I'll just put a bag over his head and pull on the handlebars. Get to work, whatever works. But all kidding aside, this is the face of the enemy. This is the face of somebody who is as ugly on the outside as he is on the inside. So that's why it's being highlighted. And you could call it as many tropes as you want. The Israelis came out and they were pretty upset about this. The real story here is not him. The real story is her. to look a man in the face, making his mating call sounds in her direction, holding an automatic weapon, and her flipping him off like, I don't give a damn. You want to kill me? Kill me. But I am not going to give you my dignity. That is the real power here. That is why this woman is so brave. That's why they're all brave. The person on the left is not going to win this fight. We'll win. And we'll win it for this lady on the right. You know the amazing thing about Patrick Betts, Star of David, and all those cohorts that are supporting this cause? They would absolutely defend the guy on the left against the lady on the right. So remember whose side they're on. Remember who they support. And remember to do what's right. The day will come where he will no longer be armed, and he will be begging for mercy, if he's not already. It's not quite there yet, but a day will come where this will surface, and he's going to have to answer for it. And when he does, the justice will be swift, and it will be brutal, as it should be. So why is this such a important subject that we can't just, I would say, arbitrarily move away from? There is a story that is not being talked about that I only came across because I do check in on the Times of Israel just to see what type of shit they're throwing out there. What type of stories they come up with. That sounds about right, good cheeseburger. Colin, I need that story, please. Oh, he's a bottom, all right. Yeah, he's definitely taking it. He ain't giving it. He doesn't have anything to give. One of the things that the Nazis did to the Jews during the early stages of the Holocaust, particularly during Kristallnacht, is they, I guess, would display the children's shoes of the children that they killed. And it appears that they got pretty upset about having this story displayed. Colin, that is not the story I asked for, please. All right, hang on one second. It is unfortunate, but this is a huge part of what actually goes on. Having to remember that these kids get killed and that there has to be some type of a keepsake that reminds you of them, this is one of the ways that it happens. The shoes represents the reality that these children have gone through and that they're no longer here. Pull that up, please. Gaza shoe display in Amsterdam appears to appropriate Holocaust imagery ahead of Yom HaShoah. Exhibit in Dam Square by pro-Palestinian nonprofit commemorates Palestinian children killed in Gaza war. It's not a war, it's a genocide. Drawing criticism. Colin. Hold on. Scroll. And that's just scratching the surface. Whole bunch of other ones out there. Keep going. An exhibition in Amsterdam this week memorializing children killed in Gaza appeared to appropriate Holocaust imagery by using shoes to symbolize the Palestinian victims. It is a Holocaust. At least 250,000 to 500,000 people are dead because of you. The event was held on Sunday, less than 2 days before Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day, or Yom HaShoah. Gotta love these made-up words. In the Dutch capital's center Dam Square. It includes thousands of shoes arranged in rows, an apparent allusion to iconic displays of the shoes of Holocaust victims throughout Europe. These include the shoes of the Danube Bank Memorial in Budapest, Hungary, and a collection of about 8,000 shoes of child victims of the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp. Pro-Palestinian group Plant an Olive Tree Foundation, which organized the event, said the shoes were placed to commemorate more than 20,000 children who were killed in Gaza during the war, which began with the Hamas-led October, because of course they have to throw that in there. That's not when it started. Invasion of Israel, as Dutch celebrities read the names of children and journalists reported killed in the war. A display showed of the names and pictures of 313 children, and flyers were distributed to passerby. Plant an Olive Tree said. The exhibition was held shortly before the beginning of Yom HaShoah on Monday evening, when Israel and Jewish communities worldwide commemorate the murder of 6 million Jews by the Nazis. It's about 5.2 million. Still, pretty big number. Reports of anti-Semitic incidents in the Netherlands have spiked since the October 7th attack. The country is featured prominently in Holocaust remembrance because Anne Frank, one of the genocide's most famous victims, hid there before being killed. The apparent connection between the Amsterdam Shoe Memorial and the Holocaust monuments drew criticism. I wonder from who? Even when they attempt to promote the narrative of a so-called genocide, they draw imagery from Jewish history. Amir Sarfati, founder of Behold Israel, a pro-Israel nonprofit geared towards Christians, of course, posted on Telegram on Tuesday. Look at this shameful presentation in the heart of Amsterdam, where thousands of shoes were displayed to protest the alleged killing of the Palestinian children. Oh, so it's just made up. So it didn't actually happen. Hold on. Go up. Yeah, see, this is all just fake. They all just went and grabbed a whole bunch of shoes and put them on display because reasons. There is no shame in their game. Hamas officials say more than 72,000 people in the Strip were killed during the war. That is not what they say. Again, you're lying. But as we know, when your lips are moving, you're lying, including over 600 since a ceasefire took effect in October of 25. Yeah, they're still referencing a ceasefire from 6 months ago. The toll is unverified and does not differentiate between civilians and combatants. The Israeli military believes that Hamas's overall toll is largely accurate, with IDF officials estimating that 2 to 3 civilians were killed for every dead terror operative. Israel has said it seeks to minimize civilian fatalities and stresses that Hamas uses Gaza's civilians as human shields. Still going with that one too. Fighting from civilian areas, including homes, hospitals, schools, and mosques. Scroll up to that image one more time, please. One thing we've been saying for as long as we've been doing this, these children cannot die in vain. We cannot let that be. It is more than our responsibility. It is our duty to make sure that they don't. because it's been done in our name. We bear responsibility for what has happened. Those children should be alive today, and we have been lied to for many a generation for all these crimes against humanity that have been done. That son of a bitch who runs that Behold Israel organization, he was more or less intimating that this didn't really happen, that it's all made up. They went out there, they took shoes and they put them on the ground like it didn't happen. It's just like Eisenhower said, take as much footage, document it all, because there's going to come a time in the near future where someone will stand up and say this never happened. And that's why we have to document this. Always. We always have to document this. Because if we don't, we're doomed to repeat it. Luckily, the rest of the world is stepping up to take our place. We don't deserve to be that so-called shining city on the hill that Reagan, in his greatest fantasy world that he lived in, wanted people to believe was actually real. No. We are the dark side of humanity. We know that this has been happening. And yet, with many of the likes that are out there, think that the reason that this is acceptable is because it is all done in the name of profit. And if hundreds of thousands of innocent children have to be killed in order to maintain American hegemony, U.S. Western supremacy, in conjunction with the genocidal state of Israel, that's the price you pay. I don't want to pay that price. I don't know anybody else that does. But don't look away. Don't look away from those shoes. Don't look away from what's happened. Don't ever forget the role that we've played in all of this, because it's big. And yes, it's heartbreaking. But we must bear witness, and we must continue to use all the tools within our tool shed to fight this fight. There are so many different ways to fight effectively. I don't have all the answers, but I have some. We keep addressing this on a regular basis. But kind of like the beginning of the stream, where we showed the images of people in the DNC meeting who didn't want to get off their ass. They couldn't get off their ass because they're too comfortable or they're too cowardly to stand and fight. But maybe, just maybe, someday, people will look at this and finally decide that they've had enough. There is a growing movement in this country of what is known as the America First movement that has had enough. So it is our job, it is our duty to continue to push this forward. All Israel does is rain terror and hell around the world, whether in Lebanon, whether in Iran, whether in Gaza, West Bank. This is what they do. And while we can't stop them abroad, we can stop them here at home. More and more people need to be involved and forming coalitions based on economic lines, and only that. And if there are issues, many an issue that exists, put differences aside and go out there and fight. Just do it. And if you run into people on the left who don't want to coalesce because they don't like the fact that this person may not be where they are on, let's say, the trans issue, fuck them. This is going to kill us all. Israel will drag us to hell with them. So we have to lance them off like a boil. And as a United States of America, if we are going to save our republic and start anew, it is time to put real differences aside. Do it now, or you'll be sorry in the not too distant future. Maybe some people just want to see it all burn to the ground. That's their prerogative. Me, I still love my country. I hate the people who run it, and I want to make it a better place for everybody. So, if you agree, continue to support, continue to smash that like button, continue to share these streams, check out our clips, comment, like, and share. And we appreciate all that you do to support our efforts. Let's get to our final super chatters for the evening. One more time, make sure you go over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite suppressed, yet still growing channel. And for the final time, let's get to those super chatters. Izzo Faux Show with the $10. Keep up the great work. Thank you, pal. Appreciate your support. Jim Talib, always a pleasure. Thank you for the $5 super sticker. Agreeable, thank you for gifting 1 Revolutionary Change membership. Really appreciate you. Izzo for show with 5 gifted Revolutionary Change memberships. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it. Melissa Miners with the $10. The last 2 Saturdays, I know my kids and neighbors hear me losing my shit when I'm watering garden, listening with headphones. I really think y'all's podcast is going to get larger views. Peace and love. From your lips to whoever's above's ears, the powers that be don't like our channel at all. But the people who do find our channel tend to like it and tend to be here on a regular basis, and it means a lot. Pirate Justin with the $2. That settler is quite the chosen specimen. Hey, if he could become the poster child of what we support, that's what it's going to be. That's the meme. This is what your tax dollars support. That should be plastered everywhere. Use the donkey face with that headline. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Are you sure PBD, Loomer, and Levin have audiences? I'm not. No. Jen often likes to say those are farmed audiences. Same with Shapiro as well. Pirate Justin with the $2. Settlers gear too clean. Never been in combat. Of course not. Again, they only target people that can't fight back. That's a mark of a true coward, because that's what they are. And finally, Carson Cruz with the $10. Maybe Spielberg can be encouraged to make a black and white movie with a girl in a red dress crying to be rescued. In Rajab, never forget. Very well stated. It really brings the Schindler's List hypocrisy full circle. Thank you all for sticking with me this evening. This has been one hell of a long day. We went almost 2.5 hours, and I got to get dinner. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. We'll see you Monday, and free Palestine. Good night, guys.